I once heard on a podcast that the fastest way to align with source energy or to be closer to God is through laughter. And let's see what Oran Sarafael has to say about the magical aligning power of laughter.
There's a reason so many near-death experiencers, mystics, and spiritual teachers describe the divine not as heavy, but as light, not shallow, not dismissive of pain, but light in spirit, spacious, loving, playful. You've probably heard the phrase, the fastest way to align with God is through laughter. At first, it can sound cute or simplistic, but when we look through both a spiritual and scientific lens, laughter turns out to be one of the most powerful alignment tools available to human beings. Lash laughter as a spiritual state of alignment. Across traditions, closeness to the divine is described with similar qualities: trust instead of fear, openness instead of contraction, connection instead of separation, presence instead of mental time travel. Laughter naturally brings us into all four. When you're laughing, truly laughing, you are not rehearsing the past, not worrying about the future, not defending your ego, not trying to control the moment. You are fully here. Spiritually, this is what many teachings point toward as alignment with Source, God, or universal consciousness, a return to the present moment where love, connection, and aliveness are directly experienced. Laughter dissolves the illusion of separateness. It reminds the body and mind, in this moment, I am safe enough to let go. And letting go is one of the core spiritual movements of awakening. The neuroscience of laughter and divine states. Let's translate this into biology. When you laugh, several powerful things happen in the brain and nervous system. One, stress chemistry drops. Laughter reduces levels of cortisol and adrenaline, the very hormones that keep us in survival mode. When these chemicals drop, the body shifts from threat, safety, contraction, expansion. Spiritual traditions call this surrender, trust, or grace. Neuroscience calls it parasympathetic activation. Same experience, different language. Two, connection chemicals. Increased laughter increases endorphins, natural painkillers and mood elevators, dopamine, motivation and pleasure, oxytocin, bonding and trust. Oxytocin in particular is associated with love, social bonding, feeling connected rather than alone. Many people describe spiritual experiences as feeling deeply connected to everything. Laughter biochemically nudges the brain into that very state. Hash 3. The default mode network quiets the default mode network. DMN is the brain network associated with self-referential thinking, rumination, ego narratives, me, my story, my problems. In meditation, prayer, and psychedelic-assisted therapy, this network often quiets down, and people report feelings of unity, peace, and transcendence. Genuine laughter also interrupts this network. For a moment, the mental narrator disappears. There is just sound, breath, sensation, presence. That ego softening is one reason laughter can feel spiritually expansive. Laughter as surrender. From a spiritual perspective, suffering often comes from resistance, resisting what is, resisting emotions, resisting uncertainty, resisting imperfection. Laughter, especially the kind that comes from seeing the absurdity of life, is a form of surrender. It says, I don't have to control everything. I can be human and still be loved. Life is strange, messy, and still beautiful. This loosening of rigid control is one of the key movements in spiritual growth. When control softens, grace is felt more easily. Why laughter feels close to God. People often describe deep spiritual states as light, free, playful, loving, timeless. Those same words describe moments of genuine laughter. In laughter, time drops away, the body opens, the heart softens, walls between people fall. It's no coincidence that shared laughter builds instant connection. It temporarily dissolves the boundaries between me and you. Spiritually, that mirrors the idea that separation is an illusion. Laughter gives us a felt experience of unity, not just a philosophical one. Laughter and the nervous system, a gateway to safety. Many people struggle to feel connected to God or Source, not because they lack belief, but because their nervous systems are stuck in survival mode. A chronically stressed system cannot easily access feelings of trust, love, surrender, wonder. Laughter is one of the fastest regulators of the nervous system. It involves rhythmic exhalation, which stimulates the vagus nerve, a key way for calming the body. When the body feels safe, the heart opens. When the heart opens, spiritual connection feels natural. So, in a very real biological sense, laughter creates the internal conditions where spiritual experience becomes more accessible. The divine play perspective. Many mystical traditions speak of existence as a kind of divine play, not in a dismissive way, but in the sense that life is an unfolding creative expression rather than a grim test to survive. Children laugh hundreds of times a day. Adults often forget how. Returning to laughter is not regression, it's remembrance of spontaneity, of lightness, of being alive, rather than just managing life. From this perspective, laughter is not an escape from spirituality, it's an expression of it. Important clarification. Laughter isn't denial. This doesn't mean bypassing pain or pretending everything is fine. True spiritual alignment allows room for grief, anger, tears, joy, laughter. In fact, people who feel safe enough to laugh are often the same people who have allowed themselves to feel deeply. Laughter isn't about ignoring darkness, it's about not letting darkness be the only tone of your existence. The deeper truth. If alignment with God means living from love rather than fear, feeling connected rather than isolated, trusting life more than controlling it, being present rather than lost in mental noise, then laughter is one of the most direct doorways there. It softens the ego. It regulates the nervous system. It connects us to others. It brings us into the present moment. Spiritually, it opens the heart. Scientifically, it shifts the brain and body into states associated with safety, bonding, and well being. So the idea isn't that laughter is the only path to the divine, but it may be one of the most natural and most overlooked. Sometimes the holiest sound a human can make is not a prayer. It's a belly laugh shared with another soul in a moment where nothing needs to be fixed and everything, just for a second, feels whole.
So this was really interesting to me, all of the biological, chemical transactions that take place within the body and the soul, the mind, just through a simple thing like laughter. Um, my wife, when we first got together, um, our our lives were very serious and very intense, and I was always fairly angry and frustrated. And when she came into our home, uh, she kind of lit our lives up with laughter. And before we knew it, we couldn't help but join in. And eventually, we all started just joking around and having fun. And in fact, a few months in to us getting together, my kids all came to me and go, "Dad, if you mess up this relationship, we're leaving and going with her." And so I just had to laugh at that. And I was just even more determined to make sure that she and I had a lot of laughter and love in our relationship. There was a story in the book, The Secret. My dad gave that to me years ago. And in it, this woman and her husband were on the movie, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. And she had been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And she didn't want to do all the Western medicine. And she had heard somewhere that through laughter, it can alter your internal chemical states. And so for the next 3 months, her and her husband did nothing but laugh. They got all the comedies they could from Blockbuster, watched all the movies and heard all the comics and they just laughed for 3 months. And when she went back in for her next test, somehow the cancer was gone and they couldn't explain it. But she swears that it was laughter. So something to think about.